The morning sun streamed through the kitchen window, casting long shadows as Avery's phone buzzed insistently on the counter. Her heart sank. The bank was calling again. She picked it up reluctantly, her gaze drifting over the stack of past due notices cluttering the table. "Miss Quinn, there hasn't been a payment in 3 months," the voice on the other end reminded her briskly. Avery sighed, recalling her Aunt Lorraine's casual reassurances just last week. "Don't sweat the small stuff, darling. You know banks love to exaggerate," Lorraine had said, her voice light as a summer breeze. At 31, Avery was watching her once spotless credit score crumble, a casualty of mislaid trust in family. Nearly a year ago, Aunt Lorraine waltzed back into her life, painting dreams of a thriving restaurant. Lorraine's vision board brimmed with ambition. "Avery, you're the only one in the family who truly gets business," she'd claimed over cappuccinos, unveiling meticulous plans that now seemed woven from half-truths. "These banks are just blind to vision, but you see it, don't you? You're the smart one." Those words echoed in Avery's mind now, harsh and hollow. Standing amidst the chaos of overdue bills, Avery's patience wore thin. "That catering order you mentioned fell through ages ago," she retorted, recalling a chance encounter with the client at the local farmer's market. He confirmed it himself. "So, why are you lying to me?" An awkward silence stretched across the line. "Well, there are other orders lined up," Lorraine finally murmured. "And didn't you say you got a bonus at your firm? Maybe you could help out a bit." Avery's voice wavered with frustration. "That's not what co-signing means, Aunt Lorraine. You assured me you'd keep up with the payments. You promised responsibility." Her aunt's tone turned defensive. "It's tough to run a business, Avery. Of course, there are going to be bumps along the way. You should understand that, being an accountant." Determined to get answers, Avery marched to her home office and logged into the online banking account she'd finagled access to. Her heart plummeted as she scanned the transactions. "Are these luxury brand purchases your definition of bumps, Lorraine? Or the lavish spa retreat? Because the business account is riddled with personal splurges." "Networking opportunities," Lorraine insisted. "You've got to spend money to make money. You really need to broaden your thinking when it comes to business, Avery. For someone so smart, you're a bit naive." The more Avery examined the expenses, the more she realized the bakery venture was bleeding her dry. Reviews complained of erratic hours and unmet promises, while Lorraine's social media flaunted her indulgence in high-end eateries and getaways, all bankrolled by what was meant to be business funds. Reflecting back, the warning signs were glaring. Lorraine had come bursting into Avery's life with tales of a quaint shop, cherished family recipes, and a roster of business courses, neglecting to mention that 3 banks had already turned her down. These courses were little more than quick seminars, and Lorraine's track record of failed businesses, like the handmade jewelry enterprise and the short-lived life coaching gig, painted a murky picture. Avery had wanted so desperately to believe her. Growing up, Aunt Lorraine had been the exuberant spark amidst a familial cloud of practicality preached by Avery's mother. Lorraine championed dreams and flamboyant ideas, urging her niece to follow her heart. Avery pulled up those old projections Lorraine had once paraded. Stark reality lay bare. The bakery was a financial black hole. As Avery's phone vibrated with a fresh text from her cousin Mallory, she sighed. "Have you talked to Mom lately? She's telling everyone," the message read, "undoubtedly more familial drama ahead." Avery steeled herself, knowing a reckoning was due, and this time, Lorraine's charm wouldn't be enough to smooth over the deepening cracks in their relationship or clear Avery's mounting debts. The tension in Avery's chest grew unbearable as she scrolled through her cousin Mallory's messages. "Mom says you insisted on being part of the loan, just to control her," one text read, stirring a deep sense of disbelief. The accusation was outrageous. She remembered the relentless barrage of pleas from Aunt Lorraine, her desperate visits and tearful calls, all painting Avery as the last pillar holding up her crumbling dreams. Yet here Lorraine was, twisting the narrative, playing the victim card to family, Avery as the villain, the so-called ruthless businesswoman intent on sabotage. The betrayal was a bitter storm crashing through Avery's ordered world. She glanced at her meticulously arranged office, the color-coded files, the desk kept tidy, every plan in her life based on structure and promise. All now threatened by Lorraine's chaos. That evening became a painstaking exercise in documentation. Every email, every plea from Lorraine, every assurance of fiscal responsibility jotted down. Avery went through every bank notice, each one outlining missed payments. Statements were downloaded, exposing the truth of business funds squandered on luxury goods. As she delved deeper, the full extent of Lorraine's irresponsibility emerged. Vendors had gone unpaid, local suppliers had cut her off, and the bakery lease was nearing eviction due to consistent late rent. Worse still, Lorraine had maxed out credit cards opened under the business name on frivolous personal indulgences. Meanwhile, Mallory continued pinging Avery with family chatter. Poor Lorraine, Avery is being too harsh. Shouldn't families stick together? Sarcastic laughter bubbled up at that. Hadn't Avery risked her own financial well-being for Lorraine's dream? Her loyalty was repaid with deceit. Then came the dreaded call from her mother. Avery, maybe you could show some leniency. Lorraine's just not good with numbers, not like you, she suggested gently. She seems perfectly adept at hiding her personal shopping and business accounts, Avery retorted, sour resentment evident in her voice. Anger giving way to unfamiliar determination, Avery turned to her laptop to research every angle of small business liability and fraud laws. The truth hit her with uncomfortable clarity. Lorraine's actions went beyond poor financial management. They skirted the edge of legality. What she'd been doing wasn't just unethical, it was fraudulent. Avery's entire professional life had been based on integrity. She wasn't going to let it crumble under Lorraine's manipulations. With steely resolve, she contacted a lawyer familiar to her firm. This step would alter everything: relationships, family perceptions, the stable, yet illusory world they'd constructed around Lorraine's flashy endeavors. The evidence was damning, yet there was no other path forward. To protect herself and rebuild her shaken life, Avery had to embrace the role of the antagonist in Lorraine's narrative. In the consultation with her legal advisor, each of Avery's fears materialized. She was financially tied to Lorraine's mess, with the potential for criminal implications due to the latter's financial misdeeds. Our first move should be a formal demand letter, the lawyer advised, weaving through the legal jargon with precision. This will outline the misuse and demand repayment within 30 days. Noncompliance means a civil lawsuit, alongside reporting the fraudulent activities. The legal paths were daunting, and few offered immediate respite from the loans she unwittingly co-signed. But confrontation was inevitable. Avery knew she had to untangle herself from this web, and fast, despite how it would paint her in her beloved family's eyes. A weight pressed firmly on Avery's shoulders, a weight that seemed more burdensome with each revealing conversation. She sat in her cluttered study, surrounded by traces of a life ordered by numbers and fairness, finding solace in familiar rhythms while her family unraveled around her. Her lawyer's voice remained steady on the call, outlining the grim reality. Proving deliberate deception could remove your liability from the loan. But brace yourself, it's going to be contentious, the lawyer warned. No sooner had Avery hung up than her phone vibrated with a new notification. Aunt Lorraine had unleashed yet another cryptic social media tirade about family betrayal. Though she didn't name her, the insinuation was clear. She forwarded the message to her legal team, the word defamation now looming over their discussions. Steeling herself, Avery decided to visit Lorraine's cafe, a would-be hub that had become more ghost town than gathering place. The once bright, open sign now declared "Gone to lunch," an irony stretching 3 days, according to neighboring shop owners. Through the glass, the bakery's interior lay abandoned, counters bare and floors unkempt. The pile of untouched mail by the door told its own story of neglect. A nearby barista shrugged with a knowing smile. She hasn't been around much, but we see her car frequently at the Oak Ridge Country Club. Guess that's where the real business meetings happen. The revelation laid bare Lorraine's so-called networking events, thin veils for indulgences bankrolled with borrowed funds. Her phone rang again, Aunt Lorraine's name flashing on the screen. She let it slip into voicemail, expecting the predictable blend of charm and manipulation. Avery, sweetie, I heard you're getting legal involved. Families should stick together, don't you think? Why not come by for dinner? I've got your favorite dessert waiting. The same syrupy sweetness she'd wielded to lure her into signing the loan was now painfully transparent, the warmth a thin guise over calculated nostalgia. Avery replied curtly, hands steady with purpose. All further communications would be managed through her attorney. She blocked her number without hesitation. Hours later, the demand letter crafted with legal precision landed like a thunderclap. Family erupted in discord, calls, messages, and pleas inundated her. Her mother's tearful voice beseeched her for mercy. Angry texts mingled with those of concern. But amid the turmoil, her grandmother's unexpected support was a revelation. Lorraine's always pulling stunts, she confided during their weekly breakfast. Remember my engagement ring she borrowed and pawned? She talks big, but it's only trouble. Each confession unearthed a cascade of Lorraine's past misdemeanors, credit cards piled high with debt in Uncle Tom's name, a car sold under the guise of a loan, schemes woven through familial trust. Then Lorraine counterstruck, distributing an email to every relative, friends linked by family history, painting herself as the victim of Avery's corporate tyranny. I just wanted to share my mother's culinary legacy, she wrote. Avery pressured me into extravagant loans, now threatening with lawyers because times are tough. She forwarded the email and the financial receipts to her lawyer, setting the record straight with raw, unvarnished truth, spa retreats, luxury shopping sprees, extravagant meals, and memberships paid from the bakery's account, all while debts spiraled. The shockwave was immediate. Relatives both defended and derided her. Accusations of airing dirty family secrets clashed with others confessing their victimhood. She said she needed $10,000 for an emergency order, read one cousin's message. Confusions clarified, trust tested, and Avery's resolve steeled amidst stories of Lorraine's long history of deceit. Avery knew the truth was now out. As fractious as it was, it offered a chance to reclaim her integrity and lighten the weight she'd been carrying all too long. This was her stand, finally and resolutely. In the quiet solitude of her office, Avery stared at the legal documents before her, the papers representing battles both lost and won in a war she wished had never started. Just that morning, her phone buzzed with a call from her lawyer. Avery, your aunt's representation has reached out wanting to discuss a settlement, the lawyer explained, an ominous undertone shadowing the opportunity for resolution. Curiosity piqued yet wary, Avery agreed to meet at a local cafe, a setting chosen deliberately for its neutrality. Aunt Lorraine, predictably late yet impeccably dressed, sauntered in draped in luxury that seemed to mock her financial plight. Her lawyer, visibly weary before the proceedings even started, prepared his documents with a resigned air. Here's our proposal, Avery's attorney began. Ms. Quinn will refrain from pursuing criminal charges if Mrs. Lorraine meets these conditions, sign a confession of judgment for all misused funds, issue a public retraction of her prior allegations, and transfer bakery assets to aid in loan repayment. Aunt Lorraine's disbelief hung in the air like incense as her gaze flickered between the legal representatives. Criminal charges, she echoed, her voice faltering under the implication. This was my business. I could spend the money, her lawyer interjected, patience thin yet firm. No, Mrs. Lorraine. That's fraud, plain and simple. Exhaustion shaded Avery's voice with an edge of resolve. I co-signed a business loan, she broke in, not a credit card for your personal indulgences. The facade of Lorraine's charm splintered as tears pooled in her eyes, tears Avery had seen manipulated at many a family function. But this time, their intended power over her broke and scattered. It was my dream, she whimpered. To see it all unravel, the dream, Avery responded, unyielding, was an illusion built on borrowed splendor. The negotiation reached a somber pause. Lorraine's lawyer nudged a box of tissues toward her, speaking softly yet pointedly. This deal favors you, Mrs. Lorraine. The alternative holds dire consequences. Accusations of betrayal flared anew in Lorraine's voice. the words tangled with anguish only just displaced by fear of legal repercussions. Avery's lawyer remained unperturbed. Federal charges for bank fraud, he reminded, leveling Lorraine's bravado with unwavering calm. Avery possesses every statement, every misappropriated fund, airtight evidence. The tears ceased as Lorraine's facade fractured into speculative calculation, eyes darting with thoughts of self-preservation. Avery watched her weigh possibilities, as she had perhaps from the very beginning when selecting her mark for the co-signature. "You have until tomorrow to decide," Avery's lawyer stipulated, closing the encounter with pragmatic finality. As Avery exited, Aunt Lorraine's voice echoed still, weaving fresh narratives of sidelong truths to their relatives on the phone. But the words, once piercing, now lacked the sting to sway her. Avery clutched evidence, woven not just in truth, but in her newfound resilience. The next afternoon, Lorraine resignedly signed the agreement. Her lawyer guided her hand with an unyielding nudge, recognizing the inevitability of the choice. Within days, Lorraine broadcasted an official retraction across her social platforms, though the confession danced the line of martyrdom. "Due to recent misunderstandings," it began, "I correct the narrative involving my niece Avery's role in my business ventures. No coercion occurred regarding the loan, and I acknowledge personal misuse of business funds." The family's collective response diverged predictably. For some, it released long-suppressed truths, unveiling further tales of financial misdeeds. Others clung to Lorraine's sanitized version, viewing her as a noble figure bearing the cross for familial harmony. Yet Avery's mother, torn by divided loyalties, sought an impossible peacekeeper role. "Couldn't this have remained quiet?" she implored over lunch, her voice heavy with the social fallout. "The town was already involved, Mom," Avery replied evenly. Aunt Lorraine ensured that when she twisted the truth about me. "She's still family," his mother countered sadly. Losing the country club, enduring such hardship from her pocket, Avery produced the latest damning credit card statement, a silent testament to a hard reality. In a sunlit room, Avery watched as her mother slowly absorbed the printed charges laid across the dining table, eyes widening at the long list of transactions. These were the costly giveaways of Aunt Lorraine's financial exploits, shadows cast from loans unpaid. "I never knew the scale of this," her mother murmured, her voice an echo of shocked realization. "No one ever sees it until it's too late, Mom," Avery replied softly. Lorraine always banked on family loyalty to conceal her tracks. The sting of betrayal hadn't dulled with time, nor had the burden of untangling Lorraine's web of deceit that had ensnared Avery's financial credibility. The bakery, once Lorraine's crown jewel, now existed only in receipts and memories. It had been stripped and sold off in pieces, its assets barely a drop in the ocean of debts. Equipment was repossessed by suppliers long weary of empty promises. Lorraine faced a lifetime of repayment, shackled by a confession of judgment designed to hold her accountable. Yet, untangling emotions were messier than untangling debts. Persistent voices in the family, who couldn't see beyond Lorraine's charming facade, condemned Avery. To them, she was the niece who had turned on her kin. But as Avery addressed the whispered criticisms, others found strength in her resolve. Her cousin, Preston, revealed Lorraine's empty promises on investment gains from his inheritance. A family uncle shared how she had drawn credit in his name during their marriage. Even Avery's grandmother confided about missing jewelry that had disappeared, echoing stories once bitterly dismissed. "You are the first who's actually made her accountable," her grandmother praised, a sentiment now Avery's guiding light. Attorney messages became updates she relied upon. "Your aunt requested reduced payments, citing budget shortages," her lawyer noted. Avery chuckled darkly at the irony, imagining Lorraine's plea given the new handbag and tailored outfit she'd undoubtedly sported. "We held fast," the lawyer assured. The legal framework meant recourse was ready should deception rear again. 6 months passed, and brighter ventures took root in the bakery's former space. A young couple with a genuine flair for business breathed new life into it, honoring Avery's grandmother's recipes. They politely declined Lorraine's bid to act as a consultant, wary of her past. Family gatherings adjusted, the once usual congregation shrinking to factions of belief and support. When Avery's mother unearthed another deception, Lorraine had solicited loans under her name. Peace attempts between her children faded. She promised them you'd cover her debts. Avery's mother relayed, anger lacing her disbelief. Without Avery's revelations, her mother might have been unlawfully bound to those debts, too. The repayments pressed on, each one a monthly ritual of drama from Lorraine, riddled with social media lamentations on sacrifice. But her lifestyle, relishing in luxury, bred contradictions to the stories she spun. Updates trickled in from cousin Mallory, suggesting Lorraine had launched yet another endeavor, life coaching for the affluent and unwary, capitalizing on her talent for crafting illusions. Should we warn them? Mallory mused, worry tinged with irony. Avery waved off the thought. It's all public record. If they don't research, that's their choice. Unbeknownst to Lorraine, Avery's life had thrived beyond her aunt's financial shadows. Free from Lorraine's whirlpool of deceit, Avery excelled, rising within her firm to a partner specializing in identifying fraud, a position she once might have never considered. In conversations with clients, she relayed her story, underscoring an unspoken lesson. Blood ties don't equal trust, she often reminded them. Red flags don't discriminate by family tree. Over time, Avery's world recalibrated, bonding strongly with relatives who valued transparency, while others who perpetuated Lorraine's behavior found themselves easing from their social sphere. The reconstruction of trust was an ongoing process, but one Avery embraced, step by step, each day a distance from the shadows of an aunt who mistook family for opportunity. As the evening sun cast a golden hue across the room, Avery sat amid the laughter and conversation of her grandmother's quaint dinner party. Celebrating her recent promotion felt like a fresh start, a welcome shift after a tumultuous year. Among the smiling faces of family who had supported her, a realization anchored itself deep within her. True family loyalty uplifts and nurtures, demanding accountability instead of sacrifice. "My dear, if only we had had your backbone years ago," her grandmother murmured, grasping Avery's hand with a gentle firmness. "The heartbreak we could have spared ourselves if someone had dared to stand up to Lorraine before you." A year past their family's legal storm, Avery received a small package wrapped in simple brown paper. Inside lay a leather-bound notebook, its pages edged with time and tradition, her grandmother's cherished recipe book, thought lost forever. Accompanying it was an anonymous note revealing its salvation from Aunt Lorraine's misguided attempts at liquidation. The familiar scripted recipes brought flooding memories of innocent days spent baking with Lorraine before the shadows of deceit darkened their bond. That evening, Avery's phone rang with unexpected news. Lorraine's decided to make a fresh start in Arizona, her mother shared, her voice carrying less certainty than relief. The shift in family sentiment was palpable. Where once buzzed excitement for Lorraine's ventures existed only a sigh of quiet resignation. She wanted some financial help for the move, her mother added. For the first time, I declined. Avery traced her fingers over the notebook's dappled cover, contemplating the concepts of legacy and heritage. Lorraine had always professed a dedication to their baking lineage, but authentic honor thrives not on showy declarations or borrowed funds, but on veracity and duty. The recipe book now graced her kitchen shelf, a testament to doing things right, the careful measuring, precise following of directions, a grounding contrast to Lorraine's turbulent dreams. That holiday season, their streamlined family gathering embraced sincerity over grandeur. Her mother, too, had turned to the recipes, treating the task with newfound meticulousness, a subtle defiance of Lorraine's carefree flair. Rumors trickled from distant corners, narrating tales of Lorraine's ventures in Arizona, a string of startups begun and discarded, set against a backdrop of indulgence. Despite awareness, some family members still funded her escapades, clinging to comforts of old habits. Yet within these new boundaries lay changes of importance. Avery's mother now sought her wisdom for financial matters, eschewing guilt for guidance. Her grandmother, too, had shifted focus from mending familial discord to reinforcing healthy barriers. Cousins, once complicit, began questioning long-standing traditions of enabling under the guise of loyalty. On a quiet evening not long after, Avery sifted through old family photos. One captured the bakery's grand opening day, Lorraine, full of dreams, blazing beside an equally optimistic Avery. Past disappointment softened into gratitude as Avery noted the enduring lessons learned. Trust requires boundaries. Family loyalty exists not in perpetual acquiescence, but in truthful confrontation. Placing the photo back into its album, Avery caught a detail previously overlooked. Even on that hopeful day, Lorraine had been wearing a designer watch, and something about it always seemed out of place. It was a reminder that while personalities remain constant, enabling need not. In the end, honoring family means cultivating honesty, and sometimes, the courage to say no is the most profound gift of all.